Hello gamers, welcome back to a new year with Beyond the Emulator with your host Dylan. In today's episode we're going to be running Spruce OS version 4.0.0 on the Trimui Smart Pro here. It's an exciting time for the Trimui community, especially with the version 4.0.0 Nightly finally bringing that one SD card to rule them all functionality. Being able to hot swap between the Smart Pro, the Brick, and the new Smart Pro S is a total game changer for your handheld collectors, which I will include a link below of their nightly releases and just show a simple install of their setup. Why is Spruce version 4.0.0 a big deal? As I mentioned before, it basically works across the Trimui Smart Pro, the Brick, and even the Miyoo A30 Flip, which what we're going to do is after we go through some testing on the TSP, I'll go ahead and take the card out, and for the first time we'll install it in the Brick, which I'm normally using the NextUI firmware on. There's some performance profiles that are set up on it that are pre-configured that you can check out, so you're able to get the megahertz for speed for even overclocking performance on some of the gameplay, which we'll check out on some of the games. But unfortunately I tried this out for the first time on a 32 gigabyte SD card, so I'm very limited with the games that I have. So I've only got a small menu of the Dreamcast, Game Boy Advance. I've got a few that I've tested out. There's videos I can show you, as well as Nintendo 64 has worked pretty well on some of the games. DS ports I will show you as well. PSP on some games that have worked really well over some of the other firmwares that are out there. And PlayStation as well, with a list of some games that I've checked out. So that's kind of a bonus there for making some updated settings, very similar to what MuOS firmware has, where you can change the core or governor performance settings. And then also there's another game changer, is the game switcher, which you can basically go and hold the home button down, and I've got a couple game switchers where I can go to Legends of Heroes, Trails in the Sky, or Fire Emblem, jump into the game. So I will be able to give you some more details in depth on that as well. So sit back, grab your device, follow along, see if there's something you can adjust to get better gameplay and performance as we're going to be going beyond the emulator. And lastly, if you enjoy these tutorials, please like and subscribe to my page. And again, thank you and enjoy. Now, without keeping you in suspense, let's get started. So welcome back. Here is the page that I'm actually getting the Spruce UI or OS nightly firmware from. What I'll do is include the link, but down below you would go over here to the side. We've got a new release that was actually just put out within hours, and I'm not able to do an update recently in the last week because I have not been able to get a bigger SD card, so I've kind of kept things limited. But you can see there's actually all the updates that have been made. You're going to go down here, basically down to the package, and it's basically a zip file. You're going to download the Spruce version 4.0.0. You can get the latest nightly, which also you can do an update as well on the device over the air. But it's basically a download the file, and we'll go to show you really quickly how you can get it on the SD card, and I will also put my SD card in and show you how the form looks like. So here is a copy of the files that actually, when you download the folder, you unzip it or extract it, and then you're going to get to a file folder for Spruce version 4.0.0. This version was actually from the 4th of January, so it is a few days outdated from the most recent version because, again, limited SD card. But you can see the files that are listed. It's basically just like using NextUI, and what you're going to do is basically just copy this whole entire folder, these files, right onto a FAT32 SD card. Just a copy and paste, exactly like MuOS firmware. So I'm not going to really walk through the steps. That's pretty basic for everybody, but you can go in here and you could go into your ROMs, you could go into your BIOS, and you can actually add your programs into those. Here's the ROMs folder with all the platforms. You would just copy and paste your ROMs into those, as well as the BIOS. Dreamcast is the only one that needs to be a folder, but as far as for PS1 or Game Boy Advance, you can go ahead and just drag and drop or copy and paste your BIOS folders in here. So what we're going to do is, let me go ahead and grab my card out of my device, and what we'll do is I'll show you how my folder's set up as well, so it'll look very similar to this so we can see the example. Now here basically you can see on the left is actually the files that were being used when you're downloading it from the Nightly, and on the right is actually my SD card that I have. Up here is the G drive right now, and you can see that basically it's adding files after it's actually been loaded and installed. So just to kind of give you some details here, and see if I go into my ROMs, I'm going to go to N64 and I'm going to see my list of games that I have actually loaded up in there, which we're going to go into shortly. Definitely don't want to go into all this hardware stuff. We want to get into some gameplay. So just wanted to kind of show you an example here. And again, with the BIOS, you can see my list of BIOS is just thrown in there and listed as well. So just a quick, easy copy and paste some folders, games and ROMs, BIOS. Basically, there's no using Rufus, there's no using Bay Etcher. It's basically copying and pasting after you've set up a formatted FAT32 SD card. So let's go ahead and put the SD card in and boot it up, and we'll show you what we've got to offer. Okay, so here's my 32 SD card that's in here. Basically going to insert it into the device. Going to turn it on. The bootloader, being again, this is more of a alpha version. It's still, I don't have the correct resolution for my bootloader, so I've just kind of created something and thrown it on there, and it boots up just like the stock OS or cross-mix. And there we are. We are in Spruce OS version 4.0.0, and this setup is actually like a TV retro screen, but we can change that. But I've got these tabs here, basically games, and you can see I can use my toggle buttons up here to move down, and that's going to show my menus down below as well as my games. It does have a built-in art scraper. You don't need an account required. So if, for example, we're going to go over to Super Game Boy, because there's a Rumble version for Pokemon Pinball, and just for example, I would actually press X to get into a menu, and that's going to actually show me, see, my CPU mode is Smart Performance Overclocking, and just giving me options of toggling all my games in that platform to be the same setup. I can delete the ROM, I can delete the box art, I can add to a game switcher, I can add as a favorite, I can add and remove, I can download box art, or I can select box art. So we're not currently on the Wi-Fi. It seems to have a little bit of a lag, maybe a bug, so it takes a little bit to get started. But you can see actually this, there we go. So if I were to do select box art for this particular game, I've got some versions here, but I don't have the pinball one listed. So unfortunately, this is a fail exists example. So that's why we don't have any image. But when we go to it, they are using the RetroArch cores. So we'll go back to the game. We can go to X, just going back. This is like their submenu for each of the games. We're going to go ahead and press A to start. It's going to load. And basically right into the game where I was at. And if I were to press the menu key, very similar to CrossMix or stock OS, it's going to open up that menu. So you can do save states, load states. Advanced menu is going to open it up to the RetroArch menu. So we're using the MGBA core. And if you're familiar with RetroArch, you already know this, how it works. So we can go and resume. We could add borders if we wanted to, your overlays. Get our volume back up. Quick example, and if we wanted to exit out, either it's going to be menu and start, or just menu. Still tweaking around to find out how things work, so exit the menu. Gets back out of it. We'll go over to something a little bit more exciting. Let's go to Nintendo 64. Let's go to Mario Kart. We're going to go to our menu, And for Nintendo 64, they have a couple different emulator options. So if I click the menu, I've got the Ludicrous, I've got the Parallel, I've got the MuPin 64 Plus Next, and as well as the MuPin 64 Standalone. The Standalone doesn't have any hotkeys on it because it's not included in the RetroArch cores, so it works really well, but it's got some challenges of having to change any settings or save states versus the other 3 versions. So basically we'll put it on Parallel. We've got, again, we have CPU, you can make some changes there. We'll go with Performance. You could toggle settings, and if I were to click on A, puts an asterisk here. That actually just makes every time any N64 game that I'm going to use is already going to have that configuration. But we're not going to have that set up at this moment because we can make our own changes. So if we go over to Mario Kart 64, got that glitter screen. Retro achievements are actually on this, so you log in through RetroArch. But if I press the menu key, I can go to my, I don't have a save state, but if I wanted to from this point, just like CrossMix or stock OS, you're going to have these save state slots. Bingo. It's going to show my save state. Now it's going to give me an icon for the load. If I were to load it, it should go right back to it, and you can see actually save state and load state. If I were to press the advanced menu, it's going to show my cores through RetroArch. So what we can do is actually go back to a quick menu, close the content. We'll also kick you out of this menu as well back to the platform menu of SpruceOS. There we go. So if we wanted to change that core, let's go with the Ludicrous. Your retro achievement icon. Again, I could go to my load and see I've actually got some load spots because I've had some previous play. And there we go. Works really well. So that core particularly, whoa, we're getting banged up here. But this just gives you an example of some gameplay with the N64. Really good actually on the screen. Has worked really well in my N64 games that I've tested. So just wanted to kind of give you that example. We'll go ahead and get out of that menu in that game. It's going to bring me back over here. So it's also got Nintendo DS, which is using Drastic. Haven't really played with it. I've got Chrono Trigger on there. Quick example, if I'm going to press, you can see it doesn't allow me any emulator settings. It actually defaults to only one emulator, so haven't really played around with that as much. We've got Nintendo NES. We've got ports. So if we've got a couple port games, I haven't really adjusted or tried Moonlight yet. But if you're going to go to Apotris, jumps right into the game.
Ready. Go.
Perfect. No issues at all. Press your menu and your start. And it'll get out of it. And sometimes when it actually has a save state, or actually the last image, if it didn't have any box art, it's just going to take a snapshot and put it up here to show the game. That's why these two, Moonlight and Rockbox, haven't been tested, because there's no image there. So let's go over to PSP. So I believe they're using a PPSSPP version 1.18. It's hard to tell. I've seen a couple different versions showing up 1.19 as well. I can't verify, and it doesn't show it in the main menu, but it has allowed me to play some games that were not able to be played on Newly Gladiator 2, by the way. Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky, and I want to say Pursuit Force Extreme Justice, which we'll go ahead and hit. So if I go ahead and hit my sub-menu to check my core settings, see, you can do an overclock here, but again, it's going to default to the PPSSPP emulator. So we'll go ahead with the overclock. We'll go ahead and hit A to start. It actually jumped right into the game from where I previously had left it without a save state, because this was not the beginning of the game. There was actually an opening credit. You're getting about 60 frames per second on this. It's actually worked really well for a couple of games. I just wish I had a bigger SD card to be able to show a little bit more. But if I press my menu key, it goes right into everything set up as well. For the PPSSPP, it seemed to be a little bit more pre-configured. So you can use the Vulkan or the OpenGL. OpenGL seems to be working rather well, but it was already pre-configured with the OpenGL at 2 times the PSP with the full screen and the VSync. The frame skipping was ×2 number of frames. Auto skip was already set up, as you can see. There was not much that had to be changed in here on the settings. The anastrophic filter is actually 6 times, but when I'm using the frame counter, and it also has a menu for cheats. So if I want to go ahead and hit my cheats, I'm hitting 30 frames per second as my default, and I'm getting 60 from this game. So let's go a little further. Either this is going to be forward or back of the game. This was the front end. So let's go to where we had left off. But as far as the image quality, working really well. And this game actually worked really well if I could get a little bit further. So another example I have on a PSP game would be Monster Hunter. Jumped right back into the game as far as an auto load state. There was no settings to be made, but see, he's in his building. Image quality, we're running at 30 frames per second. So we would maybe need to make some modifications. Seems like the D-pad is what's using to move him around at this moment. So I'm going to have to go in there and make some changes to use the analog stick. Make it a little bit easier for myself. But we're going to go ahead and pause that. Get out of that. And if we're going to go to PlayStation, I've got some games listed here. If we go to Einhander, this is using the rearmed core, basically using through RetroArch. Going to go back in. We're actually already into gameplay. There was nothing I actually did. Basically just started right up. So if I wanted to, I mean, it's not really necessary to have a game switcher if the games are actually loading right from their spot and you didn't want to make a decision to pick a game or something. But this has actually worked really well, and actually you see the frames per second is 60. So we can go to a load state. I don't think we have more than one load state, so see, it's going to go right back again. But jumps right into the game. It's kind of nice about the auto load and auto save in that manner. So let's go ahead and get out of this. Let's get out of games for a second. And what we've got, okay, so my applications, I've got games, which I showed you. Spruce version 4.0.0 has to offer. Applications, you've got what you offer as a firm update. You can change your boot logo. There's a box art scraper, no account, check for updates. There's a built-in e-reader I have not looked at. Your file management on your SD card. Game Nursery is an option for downloading some free games that I believe are homebrew. The Miyoo game list, it's not part of the Trimui, so I have not opened it. Portmaster, which I showed you briefly with the other game. You can have a random game select. RetroArch, you can go and check out your configurations, or you can set up your backup or any restoring backups. And then also down here you've got the theme garden. You can check out different themes that you want. So those are all the applications that they offer. And then if you go into settings, basically you've got some settings, Wi-Fi, here's my theme. So right now I currently have like retro TV. I could go to my menu, and I've got a few other choices here that are actually in the listing. So if I wanted to go ahead and select Epic Art Book Noir, now when I go ahead and get out of this, you can actually easily see, whoop, my screen, so N64, and you can see how my games are being loaded and shown now. Now if I press my menu key, which is a submenu, I can look at my toggle view, and now I have them listed this way. I go to my menu key one more time, toggle view, I can have them in a smaller view. Go to toggle view, basically, and then I can just jump right back into a game as easy as this. So, kind of a cool little feature there. So we'll exit out of this. We'll go ahead and see now you're using your toggle keys because you've got games, apps, and settings. So here on themes, you can actually make changes in your theme settings. There's options to be made here for different things: fonts, grid view, game select, how you want your menus to be done. Something you can definitely dig into. Sound settings, you've got sound, how it works, additional settings, how you want your display, your time, your clock, how you want your games to be displayed. You even got control settings, language, battery, emulator settings, how you want to have stuff set up for your cores. So a lot of features that you can really dig into. Downloading box art, optimizing it. So kind of shows you how this has worked out really well. Definitely like this. I'm going to go ahead and actually get a 128 gigabyte SD card to install this, but I wanted to kind of give a quick preview of how this works and how it works really well for the Trimui Smart Pro. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this out, just like this version was. I've never put it in my Trimui brick, so what we're going to do is we're going to power this off. We're going to go ahead and take this SD card, and we're going to go ahead and take my brick, which, just to show you here, here's my brick. First off, we're going to load up, so SD card is here. We're running NextUI. That's the firmware I really enjoy on the brick, so I just wanted to show you that it is running here. So here's my version on the Trimui brick with my games. Again, these are not all the same games, so you can see I've got quite a few games I've added, but we're going to go ahead and get out of this just to show you an example of what there was an SD card in here before we put a new SD card in here for the first time. We're going to go ahead and power it off. Now we're going to go ahead and take my NextUI on the brick card out, which is a 128. We're going to go ahead and put this 32 gigabyte card in. The guy in there. All right, and we are going to go ahead and boot it for the first time. And right now it's reading NextUI. And there it is. It is actually patching and loading Spruce OS, because this is part of their version for their themes. What it's doing is actually, when it changes the themes, it's trying to coordinate the themes that would relate to the other emulator cores, if they're being used or not, or being displayed. So what it's doing is a patch. So Spruce OS is actually working in the background before it's actually booting. The only issue is it might not connect right to the internet, being it's using a different device with a different Wi-Fi. But it seemed to have frozen up here for a second. Let's be patient for a second. No idea what it's doing. It kind of just froze up for a second. We can make an attempt. Feels like it got hung up or something on the brick. So let's do this. We're going to go ahead and shut it off. So we turn the brick off. We're going to go ahead and leave the SD card in. We're going to try this one more time. It boots to the Next UI because actually Next UI leaves some of their firmware onto the base OS card for the system. So that's why you see that menu. Oh, there's installing Spruce OS. Now it's probably installing files that it needs for the Trimui brick. So you'll actually see how this is set up. So it is swappable between the two. And here is my menu. So if I were to go to my games, there's my Mars 64 with my game art already. And see, here's all the games that I have to choose from. Should go another page. There's my PSP. There's Monster Hunter, so all my artwork is already there. Pursuit Force. And we're back into the game on a Trimui brick. How crazy and easy was that? And again, here's my menu. Just like it was before, you're just using the brick. Then I would basically be able to go to getting out of this. I can go to my apps, there's my settings, there's my power off. So I would have to set up my Wi-Fi. There's my themes, all the menus, exactly the same. The only thing we would be doing is changing a theme if we wanted to. But I would go to my recent games, and what did we do? We did Super Mario for a second, Einhander, Monster Hunter, POTUS, Mario Kart 64, Pokemon Pinball. Those are all showing up that we were just recently showing off. So I hope you enjoy this video in detail of Spruce OS version 4.0. Just kind of excited about it, and it actually is really looking good on the Trimui Smart Pro, and I'm definitely going to get an SD card to add some more games and some more gameplay and testing on it to see how it compares to the other firmwares that are being used out there. So again, thanks, and have a great day.